flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Kevin, please.
Beach now.
Here.
Running.
Present.
Yevon. Now. Henschel. Okay. Jacob.
Yes, here.
Nelson. Flamanden.
Present.
Rob. We have quorum.
Okay, oh, do we have any, public comment on any of the items on our agenda this morning? All right, no public comment. We will then resume, with our strategic planning board retreat discussion under new business.
All right.
All right.
Well, good morning. Hopefully everybody had a great afternoon yesterday. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to have a new level that I'm going to take to all my other clients who say they're going to have to step up their game. Thank you, Mr. Klein. So first I just want to start with, did anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts about what we talked about yesterday that you want to bring back to the table? I know Kevin gave you a little bit of homework, but anybody have anything to discuss before we jump into our last two topic areas today? Too busy enjoying those croissants. Okay. All right. Well, then what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about. Carrie, I'm going to defer to you on this one. So this was a topic area that came up in my conversations with Carrie, we're not anything that we saw in the previous strat plan. And so this was leaning more towards looking at some different environmental topics. The one that I will cover, and then I'll turn the floor to Carrie, was just there was conversations, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday in terms of the equipment and infrastructure is continuing the trend to transition to more sustainable practices. So more LED, more sustainable infrastructure replacement, et cetera. So that one is there, and kind of, I don't know if it needs to be a standalone, but it's underlying a lot of that replacement work that we're doing. Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you. So this action item is really like focusing on doing a formalized carbon management program. So we have over the years done a really great job with reducing our carbon footprint with the LED lighting project, the electric vehicles, our beta projects, etc. But in general, I think we've done that relatively kind of on an ad hoc basis. It hasn't been like a total focus of or a goal where we have defined this is where we are and this is where we want to get to. And this item is basically that, right? To define where we are. So we know where we are on the carbon footprint level.
Sorry.
I was just trying to make some more room.
I know that footprint up there.
He's crowding the plate here.
How did the plate go?
So
No, I
His carbon footprint is really big.
yes.
This is my card.
Way to sneak in. Way to sneak in. You don't hardly notice, Daryl.
No worries. Okay, so the carbon management program basically will help us figure out where we are, so we get that baseline. And then from that baseline, the idea is to then create goals to reduce our carbon footprint ultimately. And the ACI International does this formal ACI carbon accreditation program, which looks like a very good program, at least for the start of this process. 663 airports worldwide are in the ACI Carbon Accreditation Program. And in Michigan, Detroit and Grand Rapids are in the Carbon Accreditation Program, which since we're the third largest airport, it would naturally follow that we would participate in this program, at least initially. Because what the program initially will allow us to do is measure and then have that measurement accredited by a third-party accreditation through the ACI International, which I think gives it legitimacy for a third party to accredit it or to certify, yes, you've measured correctly, you've measured the things that you need to measure, and then to move then to the next level of, now that we've measured it, like what are our goals in the future? And that's the level 2 is where we define our goals. Where can we reduce, how can we reduce, and how do we measure that? And the reason why, of course, this is important is it's important for a variety of reasons, but I think with the terminal project, one of the things that we encountered was having to define the things that we're doing in order to be a good steward of the community, which I think we were able to do that. But having, especially in this carbon footprint arena, which is going to become more and more of a topic of conversation, especially with airports and the air industry, due to its, it generally has a high carbon footprint. So we want to be able to say, to look at our progress, to look at where we are in our progress, and be able to point that out to the public, to say, hey, we are a good environmental stewardship, and we're doing the absolute best, the absolute best we can, and that's, we're moving forward and we're tracking progress, and we'll have actual data to, instead of examples, which I think are all very good examples, we'll have actually data to back that up, which is always helpful when having, having these conversations with the public. And additionally, not only that piece, but there's also this will increase our efficiency, cost savings, and our ability to be flexible and nimble in the future. In the future, some of these carbon-related things that we rely on may not be available or may become more scarce and or more expensive. Obvious example of that is electricity. As electricity is becomes more and more expensive, that's a huge cost to us per year. I'm not sure, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
So one of the programs that I know we've been talking about for a long time is doing solar parking, solar covered parking, or solar in our parking lots, which would reduce our reliance on the electric grid, and we would have more nimbleness for those electric downtimes, etc. Midland recently just did a project, Midland Bay City Airport recently just did a project with Verigy, and they anticipate a repaying of that in less than 20 years on their electric. So it's not just about the environment, although that's very, very important. It's not just about the public. It's about making us a stronger, more nimble, and resilient business operation for the future.
So much like we talked with a few of the topics yesterday, as we look at the strategic action, this could be a singular element that could go into one of the other topics. It could stay out in its own whole. Just the carbon accreditation as an example. We called out 2 separate line items because there are the 2 different levels. One is that data collection, which is anticipated to take about a year, and then moving into level 2. So you see that through the conversation Carrie and I had, there were 2 different target years. One that we could do through 26, or even at this point, it'd be probably 27, and then, that December 28 for the second part. So those are the types of things, again, that they're called out here because it didn't really fit in a good bucket anywhere else as we were talking about for prepping today. But, if we wanted to bring that in and say, well, we're trying to be more sustainable practices, and this is kind of step one maybe of that, of how do we even benchmark that, does that, again, stay as a standalone goal, or does that roll up as a strategic action somewhere else within activities?
I think, to what Rob Henschel was saying yesterday, I think that should be a standalone goal. I mean, in and of itself, for people to see that we are conscious about this, that this is a large goal of the airport, instead of kind of baking it in, I think it gives it more priority by having it as one of our goals. And I feel like it's definitely something we've not really talked about too much before, and as we grow, I think it's, personally, I like seeing it as a major goal, because there might be other things we can bake into it with regard to recycling efforts within the facility and those types of things too. We haven't even talked about that, how much do we actually recycle materials that are, the amount of recyclables coming in and out of the airport have to be pretty substantial, so something like that could be added in too.
Yeah, and that all goes into this analysis, like when we get the baseline. So the baseline, that's a process of basically doing an inventory of all the things that happen on the airport that, create a carbon footprint. So, and then that carbon footprint per item is measured. Obviously we're gonna need a consultant to help us with this. Then it's measured, and then you come up with basically a number, right? Like this thing, this is the carbon footprint, right? To simplify it. This thing, the carbon footprint is this. And to reduce the carbon footprint by whatever percentage, and then once we have that, then we talk about, well, how do we lower it? Can we lower it? And in what way do we lower it?
I didn't, you just talked about needing a consultant. Help me out with that. So the consultant would be hired to help us to do the ACT?
The ACI.
ACI?
Yeah, they would help, they
So
would
we
be
can't do
hired
that ourselves?
to hire, we can. The ACI International has a form, it's a very lengthy form on their site where you could go through and you could do all of the measurements and the baseline measurements, but I'm not sure that, we have fully the expertise on staff to do that, number one, and number two, I don't know if there's any one single person, on staff that really has the time to do that right now, and that's why we would need to work with a consultant to help us. And I spoke with Michelle Baker, who is their environmental manager down in Grand Rapids, and she said that they hired Mead and Hunt to assist them with putting together that, it just so happened to be Mead and Hunt, to assist them with putting together that baseline. And she said that, they, she's an environmental manager with a specific, job at the airport. And she said without the consultant, it would have been just a very, very, very large lift for Grand Rapids.
Did she give a cost? What it costs to do the ACI?
Well, she said, I do have it. When did I have it on my, hold on a minute.
While you're looking for that, one of the things I did at our business, we had all of our buildings, we had a consultant come in and do an analysis. And one of the things I was looking at was, what is the payoff for me? I wanted to know, is there also a financial reason for this on top of the other reasons? And one of the things that the consultant, in our case, and I'm assuming that there's probably some programs and you're probably already aware and looking at them and using them, but where you can get some rebates from the, whether it's consumers or whoever your energy company is, there's some pretty lucrative paybacks that come from the energy companies that can help make this payoff work a lot quicker, so I'm sure that's what the consultant can also bring, because they're gonna understand those programs and help get in line with them.
Yes, so Michelle indicated that for the phase one, so data collection and putting together that baseline, it was about $30,000. And then for phase two, it was about 21,000, well, it was about 38,000 for phase two. So phase one, putting together that inventory, 30,000, and then phase two was to basically like work towards the goals, so the analysis for the greenhouse goals, and then after, then modify the baseline to reflect the impact of working towards your goals. So that was the first 30 for the phase one, and then 21 plus 17 for the phase two. And Grand Rapids did say that, after they completed phase two, they did make a choice to no longer proceed through the ACI accreditation program, because once they put together the baseline and then the phase two, they kind of had the tools that they needed to proceed on their own program after that, and it was less complicated to do that and less costly. And the way, when I spoke with Michelle, the way they did it, I mean, obviously, if we proceed down this route, we'll see what happens for us. But it seemed to me that made sense, right? Like to go through the original accreditation program to, get that certification that you're doing the thing, and you're doing the thing right, in conformity with this worldwide standard. And then once you have that piece in place, then you can run with it, basically, for less expensive than through the accreditation program.
And I'm not sure, I'm talking with Jen Olshansky, who's our sustainability manager, who actually helped Grand Rapids. The conversation was there's a lot of airports that follow that same route, that, following a industry standard of the data collection, so you're addressing it on the same playing field as everybody else, and then looking at those goals, and many of them do stop after phase two with the accreditation side of the house. They're still doing what their goals set out to be, but to your point, Gary, that they're not necessarily following the ACI route after that.
Right, because then I think that the bonus of accreditation, at least in the first couple phases, is right, you're on the same playing field, right? You're comparing apples to apples. You're comparing your baseline and your efforts with all of the other airports in the world that are under this program. So there can be no question that you're radicalizing or fudging the numbers or fudging the things you're measuring. It's you're measuring standard things that everyone's measuring.
It's my understanding that data collection is much like recycling. So FAA, if you go through, I know we talked yesterday about a master plan update. If you go through a master plan update, one of the requirements of that right now from FAA is that you also go through a waste management. One of the challenges with that is there's only so much right now within your purview, airport facilities that you can control. Can you encourage tenants, other users to do certain things? Yes, unless you're writing it in the leases, you're going to mandate these certain things. So the current accreditation is similar, that you're going to do your best effort to reach out to other users of the airport, et cetera, to collect that data so that you can have an accurate reading. So it's definitely something that you want to build that information that one can be willing to get as much data as you can in both those programs.
Yeah, and if it, setting aside, someday our regulatory agencies may require us to have this data. And they'll require us to have this data in a standardized, recognized format. And so, by moving forward now, we're just kind of getting a jump on, someday this may be required.
Something to add, and I think it should be another item, would be assessing, essentially to Carrie's point, the timing before adding environmental manager, staff person. There's enough going on environmentally at the airport already that should be an assessment item as we look at this and other environmental things that we have going around.
So for the new contours and the new gate, are we considering like all these types of issues for the design element? Is that stuff is not
Yes, that
designed
whole
like
section is designed
like
for
your
our
restrooms, your water fountains that can, or, refill a bottle. I mean, all of those things are all of those like going into the design of the.
Yes, all the sustainability items. Again, we didn't elect to go through a formalized sustainability accreditation. However, we used all those concepts in design to develop our final design solution. So to Carrie's point, there's a lot of things that we're already doing. We're pursuing rebates. We're doing all the things, but there's just nothing formal to that process at this point. So, but yes, we've got a whole carbon sequestration aspect of our triple design report. And so we're doing all these things, but not perhaps in a formalized way.
And we should collect, we should collect all of that. Collect it.
Yeah,
So,
to Rob's point yesterday too, these are things that we're doing and we should take credit for and let the public know that we're doing.
So when we're talking in terms of a strategic goal, maybe it's not just to be good at our carbon footprint, but it's to be a leader in the community, because that goal would encompass getting the word out of what we're doing and encouraging people, like, look, you can make a difference. These are things we're doing to make a difference.
Yeah, just to add on to all this, I'll just say generally there's a lot of conversations that we have going on with TCLP about options and working with them. So there's a lot of things that are out there that are possible. But we're gonna take some work and want to quote unquote take credit, some formalization to it. We're gonna have to put some work into that.
Anything else on the topic of environment? Okay. Chief, I think you're up. Your list almost rivals Mark's, I'm just gonna say. Again, you'll notice with this summary sheet, all of it is new. Because if you take a look back at our 2024 strat plan, we didn't even have, the police department was not even a twinkle in our eye at that point in time. So Chief, I'm just gonna turn it over to you to walk us through it.
Okay, we started the police department up and running in January this year. And so far, with the support of everybody, of course, Kevin, Dan, the administrative staff, maintenance ops, everybody has been tremendous help in getting this department up and running. It's a lot to do, obviously, with policies, procedures, administrative forms, MCOs, our Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement standard requirements, the federal requirements, and so forth. So we've got it running. We've got 6 officers as of today. 1 new officer started today. And then we have an additional officer possibly starting in October. So we're making progress. There's a long ways to go in trying to, continue to do the things that are required with training. Training's a big thing. There's required training. There's the TSA training and the airport training and so forth. So there's a lot of training going on. So what I did is for the strategic plan, just kind of look at the next 3 years on where the police department I feel should be at to maintain the safety and security of all the passengers and the employees and the whole airport property. We are the 3rd biggest airport in the state, and it's obvious that we're very busy. A lot of passengers coming through. We've got a lot of things going on with the new terminal, hotel. We do know Costco's on the property, so we're looking at eventually, we're going to be covering all of that. So I put down, some of the things this year and the next couple of years. We always want to maintain consistency, consistent compliant inspections, a perfect inspection with everything we have to do for TSA. So I want to make sure all our records, our training, everything we have that's required by TSA, that we're doing that every year, and that's, so we don't miss any of that stuff. Annually, I need to review the department based on all these standards, MCOs, TSA, FAA. If there's any additional requirements training-wise, things like that, but to make sure that we're staying in compliance with everything that's required by those agencies. One of the things we had talked about, I know Dan and I have talked about, is holding monthly meetings with the operations and maintenance staff, and I think that's something I think we need to do. I think it's imperative because we work so closely with them. Ops has been tremendous to work with because these guys, all of us are learning. They've been doing it for years, so we've learned a lot from working with them. So I think those monthly meetings are something that our officers and operations and maintenance can get together and say, hey, this is what we're seeing, or this is where we're having a problem, or, and they do communicate quite frequently, but I just think that meeting once a month is a good way for everybody to get together and say, I don't know if this is going on, or whatever, to keep, again, for safety, security reasons, I think it's important. Obviously, the officers, most of them have all been through de-escalation training, but I think every other year, that's something we need to reinforce. We are very customer service oriented, and the officers are very aware of that, and they're very good about talking with people, trying to calm people down. I mean, we really, and that's part of our real goal, is to just get people calm down and help them with what they're doing at the airport, getting on their flight stuff. Last thing we want to do is arrest people, haul them out of there, miss their flight stuff. So they're working, the staff, the officers work very hard at communicating with the passengers and the other stakeholders to make that happen. And so far, it seems to be going very well. The stakeholders, TSA, the airlines, I think I've had some good compliments from them, and I think we're moving in the right direction in that aspect. So the two officers I just spoke about, one started today, one in October. I'm hoping to have them completely trained, equipped, and ready to go by January. And then our contract negotiations are ongoing. Hopefully wrap those up here in the near future. Yeah.
With the additional staff too, we're trying to get to 24 hours.
Yes.
A day, so that's going to be a big jump. Right now we have Elite Security, which is a subcontract company, covering the overnight hours from approximately 9 to 5 with a little bit of overlap with the LAOs. So with the additional staff, more hours of coverage and more of our jurisdiction, right? Which is the entire airport.
Right, and we've taken that slowly, trying to learn, the officers trying to learn, we're all trying to learn the airport. And so Dan's kept the reins in, which is good. I mean, because we just want to know what we're doing and making sure we're not violating any FAA rules or anything. So slowly we're taking on more responsibility. And that's our goal, is hopefully by February, we're going to be covering 24 hours. And then definitely, by the spring, if we can, cover the entire airport property. Where we'll be doing more perimeter checks and checking the north side of the airport, and things like that. So anything we can do to help, like Ops has done it all for so many years, and I keep saying anything we can do to help alleviate what they're doing, we're trying to take over. And so they don't have to worry about that stuff. And we've been doing that little by little. It's been working very well. So, yeah, that's one of the things. The staffing, we're looking for additional training with the other local agencies as far as the active response, active shooter, emergency management training, those kind of things that every year we need to, especially the active response, active shooter training, we're going to get on board. I've already been in contact with the local law enforcement to jump on board with their training that they do every year. So we're going to get in a routine where we're going to be doing some of that training every year, with the other agencies.
Joe, we talked a lot about, this is
general question, I guess, for Dan and Joe. So, we talked a lot about badging yesterday and the different levels of badges. Who actually enforces? So if there's someone not with the right badge in the right spot, do you guys, who enforces that?
Yeah, and the officers do cited checks, and they check the badges, and but also ops does it as well.
So I think what you're getting to, without reading too much into it, is, yeah, both of us. So police will start if there's something, an incident or something, we'll start an investigation, and then ops will get involved to determine the outcome of that for the badge,
So you guys basically gotta work together, make
Yeah.
sure you have this person in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I was gonna say, is a learning curve for sure, because ops did everything for so long, and now we have additional help, and who does what. So there are some things that the law enforcement officers are doing 100%, where ops is just giving them a little bit of information, and vice versa.
Yep.
Part of the badge training requires anyone that's badged to challenge. So in other words, if someone's not badged like they should be, they call ops now. Is that something that should go to law enforcement?
I mean, it can go either way, you know, if they call us, we take the initial and we find out, and then we get a hold of ops. If they just call ops, that's fine.
We're usually involved, but
Yeah.
as of right now, like he was talking about, our jurisdiction is really in the terminal and on the front curb, and as we grow, we'll grow that jurisdiction out a little bit further. If they have multiple officers on, they're gonna cover more, right? So yeah, it's, most of the time we over communicate and get both parties involved and determine who gets it over the finish line, you know?
Like a lot of the medicals, ops will show up on, and we do the reports, so they don't have to anymore, you know, like they used to. Some of those things that we just handle, you know, and we take care of the reports and stuff, so ops doesn't have to do that anymore.
Also, he's going through his first TSA inspection as of a couple weeks ago. So everything's going really well. The inspector is really open to a new department, and reports are coming across her desk. And we always try and make it the easiest possible audit for them. So it's, you know, it's really fast and easy for them. And if there's something that we can do, we can change in-house to make that audit easier, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I give Lori reports every month. She knows, plus Dan and Lori get training records that we have to have for TSA. So all that's provided. So yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's been, like I said, so far we've been, you know, it's been fairly smooth. Fairly smooth.
If I struggle on the audits or the audit,
Yeah.
so we don't want that.
Yeah. So, you know, and then one of the things talking about the staff is, I mean, it's just this day and age with what's going on around the world, and airports are a prime, unfortunately, a high target. So it's important that we have 2 officers on at all times, and especially when we have the other terminal, we go 24 hours, we're covering. So that's where I'm trying to get to, is to where I have 2 officers on at all times. For safety, for backup reasons, security reasons, it's just, you have to, you just have to, you know. So that's where we're hoping to get to, is that we always have 2 officers on.
Kudos to Chief and our Lieutenant too for hiring the right staff. The person that just started today is known in the local area. I worked for the Sheriff's Office. He just recently is leaving Benzie for us, so we're kind of like, yes. But one thing that we thought we were going to run into with hiring is we thought we'd be sending people through the academy, which we have not had to do yet. We're getting them MCOLs certified already, or they get re-upped on their MCOL certification.
I do not want to send somebody to the academy. I don't want to do it. I'm not for this job. I don't, because they're not going to stick around. They're not. They're just going to get their certification, stay here for a year, they're going to go. So we've been fortunate we haven't had to do that.
I differ because I like to support NMC. No,
But
Joe, if you talked about, I hate to bring this up, but it's where our world is. You talked about active shooter training, and I just feel like that's something maybe that should be prioritized. There's a lot of it going on. I know you're baking that in, we got a lot going on, but, you know, I don't know how much training you guys have had in that, but boy, it's just happening so much, and, well, I really hope that would be one of the top priorities.
It's supposed to happen.
Above some of the other trainings.
Yep, it's supposed to happen this fall. I've talked to the other agencies to do the active shooter training this fall, and then every year on their schedule. I think every one of our officers has been through it, you know, obviously, but you still have to, every year, you need to go through this type of training, and we need to be prepared. So it's not only that, it's also, you know, unfortunately, we have to have, you know, the rifles, the equipment, stuff like that. We need to be, you know, we need to be prepared. So, SWAT vehicle, I mean,
Active shooter training is.
I knew it.
He wants a tactical vehicle.
Yeah, we should have a tactical field park right out front. But no.
Active shooter training is on the initial training. So we do an annual meeting review, which covers a lot of material, which is TSA requirements, but not only that, in addition to that, it's active shooter training, drone training, emergency plan training, all that good stuff. So it's covered. But now, let's get into the nitty gritty and meet with the city PD, the sheriff's office, possibly MSP, to see how the teams are going to work together.
Yeah, see, that's what we've always, what we did at Gaylord, you know, when this all started, between all three departments, we went to different schools and we did all this. It's just a little different now, because back then you'd send minimum of 2 to 4 guys in. Now it's whoever gets there first goes. You don't wait for anybody, so it's a little different, but we will train with the officers. They have a training area, and it's hands-on training that we'll go to. But it's also, there needs to be training for the administrative employees and stakeholders at the airport, so they know what to expect. You know.
We also did a full scale a couple of years ago where we brought in all the teams and actually did it. So the moulage was bullet wounds, so the makeup and everything. And we brought in the teams to take out the threat. And then once the threat was taken out, we had other teams, the medical teams come in. So it's really, really good to practice those things. Really get to communicate. Chief has been meeting with the other chiefs on a regular basis. Going to local emergency planning committee meetings, emergency management planning team meetings, and other meetings with the chiefs.
Yeah, we've really become, you know, had a good working relationship with the sheriff, the chief, lieutenant, you know, so it's gone very well. They've all been a tremendous help. I mean, they really have, especially unfortunately when that accident happened in March. I mean, they were very, very helpful in what we needed. So it worked, and that's why we have those mutual aid agreements in place with the sheriff's department, city police. So if we need them, or they need us, you know. So.
I had a question, Chief. You mentioned the Costco, covering at Costco. How extensive is that? What does that mean?
I have to get with the chief, because him and I talked about it here a couple of weeks ago. In fact, at Cherry Festival, we were talking about it. I says, how much are you guys handling there? I know they've had, I don't think it's a ton. They might get a shoplifter now and then. They might get an accident in the parking lot. Unfortunately, they had somebody die inside one of the restrooms here, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, whatever it was. I don't think it's a ton, by any means. I think what's going to keep us busier is the hotel, when it goes up. Obviously, you know what happens at hotels, so I'm sure that will keep us a little busier when that goes up. I don't think Costco is going to be a huge issue.
But that's on our property,
Right.
so we
Has
have
a good
jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction.
Right.
Yeah, at the time, you gotta kind of take an umbrella look at it. So the city police, even though we're in the jurisdiction of the city, because we have a police force, wants to give the jurisdictional of the airport property completely over to the airport police department. So any business that's on property, so you gotta look at, it's Costco, you have auto dealerships, you have even Traverse City Lake Power has property that's on their property. So those types of things they're looking to turn over to us and our police for those jurisdictions to free up their people. So we're crawling to that point through those
Like the general aviation, the new building, all of
Correct,
that.
correct. We have a
Would be
mutual aid
under our-
agreement with City PD as well. They're gonna support us while we're growing the staff and everything. They're gonna respond, if we only have one officer, because if we leave the terminal, we can't respond, with the requirements that are needed for the TSA. So when we have 2 officers, we're gonna send them with the vehicle to cover that, but if we don't, City PD's there. And if it's big enough, City PD's gonna come regardless. For central dispatch, we have a minimum of who's coming for each incident or scenario.
And currently, I see city police on the north side all the time.
Yeah,
For who knows what reason, but it's nice to see them.
right, for their presence. So
Yeah.
we've been asking City PD, Sheriff's Office, MSP to be there as much as possible, even if they're parking on the front curb or doing dog training or whatever. Whatever training they need to do, we like them on the airport property.
Yeah. So yeah, so we're moving towards that, and one of the things too is elite security, after the first, or by the first of the year, kind of being under ours, yours, under us, I guess, of the police, because we deal with them so much. So the curbside and the gate guards and that, we would answer to the police department, we would work with them and help them out more so than having to deal with ops or Dan all the time, or, I mean, Dan would still be in control of it, but we would kind of oversee them instead of ops overseeing them, since they are doing security and things like that. So, again, something ops doesn't need to worry about, they've got enough going on, these little things just to help them out.
And you're kind of doing that on the curb front already.
We pretty
this
much
summer,
are now
so
with the curb front people, we pretty much are.
walking before we run here,
Yep.
and eventually the overnight stuff will go right to the chief as
Yep.
well, so.
Great. So we'll, working on that. One of the things too, I'm finding out this records management system we went with, it's this state records management system. We've, and it was, because of the price, it was reasonable. Well, we are having tons and tons of problems with it. It's constantly kicking the officers off. It's going down. They get in the middle of something, it shuts off. It's very slow. So before I went on vacation, we had a demo by Core Technology that I've worked with before, who does our lean. And she's putting a quote together to see if maybe that's something we can do at the first year switch over, because it's much more reliable. It coincides with our lean. So that's one of the things to be a little more efficient, because right now, it takes just supervisors, myself and the lieutenant trying to review those reports, takes forever because it's so slow, and then the officers just trying to use that. And that's where I get all my statistical information from. That's the monthly reports, or whatever. If you guys say, hey, how many accidents did you handle, or how many alarms did you guys, that's all comes from there. And so it's not efficient at all. So hopefully we can look at maybe after the first year, doing something different with that. Administrative paperwork, just, again, every year, we've got to make sure that all that stuff's, in line. Mutual aid talked about additional staff, hopefully by the end of next year, is where, maybe we can add an officer to get, once that terminal's up, before the terminal's completed, and to give us, the 2 officers on every shift we are. I don't know, I gave Dan a 12-hour schedule before I left. He may have thrown in the garbage, I don't know. Gavin did.
I looked at it.
So we haven't had a chance to talk since I've been back, but that's one of the things proposed to start in September if we do it on a trial basis. If it works, is 12-hour schedule, and we're gonna starting off covering till midnight, 4 a.m. to midnight, and then in February covering 24 hours. And the shifts would probably be 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. 4 a.m. and then an overlap shift to help some of that coverage. So that's, where the end is to have enough people for 2 officers on every shift. I mean, that's kind of the end game right there.
How many officers do you think that meet? When you say 2 per shift, 24?
That would be myself, the lieutenant, who's the administrator, and then eight officers. What do we got now, 6? We're gonna have 7, so 8 officers, yes. So So that's kind of the goal on that, is then, because you also, there's vacation, time off, sick time, all that stuff, so.
How many hours a week is that for each officer?
Well, they work 40 hours a week.
Is that 40? It's not an overtime situation?
Well, if they go 12 hours, it's a 2-week period, they get 80 hours. One of the shifts in that 2 weeks is an 8-hour shift. But there's, the overtime once in a while right now is the late flight departures. They have to stay there till TSA is closed. So once in a while, they'll get a half hour, maybe an hour and a half overtime once in a while for a late flight so they don't get out of there till maybe 11:30 at night.
So someone's gotta be there.
Somebody has to be there, so, and it's just like even, right now, if there's only one officer on and something does happen outside the terminal, they can't leave when TSA is there, so we have to rely on, or if we have 2 officers, one of them can leave and go handle something outside, so.
Is that a, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that a TSA rule?
No,
That's
that's fine.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to see for the safety of the officers, safety of the passengers and employees and everything, is having 2 officers at all time.
I meant the leaving, like not leaving.
Oh, no, that is a TSA requirement.
Yeah, that's.
That is a
We
TSA
have a
requirement.
response time that we have to meet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, there are times when one officer's working and they'll go to the gate, but if I'm there, they call me, I respond, so they always know to call me.
Okay.
If they've got to be gone outside checking vehicles for a little while, do vehicle inspections, then they'll let me know. So if something happens, they call me, I go down, I take care of it, so.
Car accident, city police call or you?
No, we handle those. Yeah, we handle those.
I think, next one as far as a K-9, and I'll mention the officer we just hired. He's a master K-9 trainer. He had dogs. We were fortunate enough to pick him up. So I think in this day and age, K-9's a huge thing for airports. I've seen them in a lot of airports. I talked to a lot of different, officers who have had K-9s in airports or chiefs, and they're a huge asset. They are a huge asset. But that's a couple of years down the road, but it is something I think eventually we'd like to look at. And I know Paul would sign off on it.
It's nice to have the dogs around too. We have K9 officers with the city PD that we rely on, the sheriff's office, and MSP has 2 dogs that they bring consistently to the terminal for training, because it's a great training area for the animals and stuff. But what Chief doesn't understand is, bomb, drugs, wildlife, and anxiety. We're gonna cross-train this dog.
So we'll see. That's our.
This is the first time he's heard that.
Yeah, didn't know that, but.
I want to scrap K9 program.
Yeah, I guess it's gonna be too much.
Chief is the anxiety part.
Yeah. And then with the new, obviously with the new terminal coming online, we'll have some new policies and procedures on how we're gonna have to handle things with 2 terminals. That leads to possibly an additional office space, closer to the 2nd terminal. Right now, we're gonna outgrow where we're at right now. It's not that big. So we are gonna outgrow that spot. But I like that spot. I like where it's at. I like the response time we have the TSA from there. I don't want to lose that spot. So we may have to look at a smaller office, somewhere else and which is good. Which is if we had a smaller office next to the new terminal, the response time again, where the officers can do something in that office and not be as far away. So I think that's a good thing, maybe another small office. So, no segues. No segues?
I'm just pointing.
I gotta get there fast. I gotta get there fast. But, so, the big thing is the
Maybe a
police
bike.
department,
But not.
I think we've done a good
Feel
job.
about bike patrol.
There, yeah,
Covering a lot of ground outside. Getting in the car's gotta be inconvenient with all the nooks and crannies around there.
the bike, I honestly, I know they use bikes at airports.
They do.
They do, I know that, and so that's not a bad thing. That really is. Yep, so, and that's not a bad thing either. The overall thing is I think from when we started, when I started last June, we talked about all this, we're seeing it come to fruition, and it's gone a little better than we thought. There's always hiccups, but overall it's gone pretty good. I think we've got a good direction. And like Dan said, we, crawl before we walk, walk before we run, and we've been doing that. We're taking our time. We don't want to just jump full force. So I think it's been going well, and I think this is kind of something to just, any input, anybody has any suggestions, they want to see differently or whatever, I'm open to all of that, so. Well, yeah, I think it's a good start. I think we're doing
Chief,
it right.
Steve has a question, Chief, on his question.
First of all, a comment. I certainly, and I'm sure the rest of the staff and the board appreciates your presence and visibility. I mean, it's good to see our badge.
We've had a lot of good compliments about that. We really have. The airlines, the TSA, they've all been happy because now they've got somebody there who, security did a good job, they did. But now they've got somebody there who can actually take action right away and do something.
You got skin in the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we appreciate it.
I
The other
appreciate
thing
that,
is,
yeah.
it sounds like we're gonna have some capital expenditure, whether it be people, hardware,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Are we working on that for our budget next year?
I think once I give Mark my budget, he's gonna fire me.
Get my stuff
Yeah.
sharpened up. and-
I know one of the things Dan did was we just put in, did you talk about the grant you put in for, or is that not public knowledge, or?
No, it's public knowledge. There's a reimbursable program that the TSA does. They've stepped up the hourly basis, so we applied for that. The people in this program have been in the program before usually, so they have their standards that they meet and they're used to it. We're a new company, new airport applying, 'cause it's a new department.
Right.
So we did apply for this and hope to hear something back soon, and it's,
It's a reimbursement program
Right.
where they, by tier of airport, they give you so much per hour to reimburse the police officers for service.
For wages?
For wages.
per hour. They're there to support the TSA,
Okay.
only for the TSA part of the
Right.
program, so the TSA hours.
So, and it's based, I wanna say it's 25.
25 an hour.
25 an hour.
Yep,
So,
about 16 hours a day.
yep, so there's some reimbursement costs through that program. But it was traditionally made, once you got into the program, then they capped it and that was it. So they reopened it again with some reauthorization of TSA, Homeland Security budget. So they opened this program when we applied for it. So we'll see what criteria, if we get in, if we get accepted, etc.
They have done multiple years before too, and this is just for a year right now because of funding.
So we'll see where it goes.
And of course, I'll do Dan and I and Kevin, I'll make a budget request, we'll look at it. What can we do next year? Can we afford to do? And maybe our timeline is pushed out a little bit. It is, it's whatever the budget can handle. So, yes, we'll try to get some of this stuff next year, a couple of these things, and then, but if it has to be pushed out, we'll work around that, and maybe something gets bumped up that's not quite as expensive, and move it around a little bit if we can, but this is just kind of projections, and some of it could definitely change timeline.
I think personnel is gonna be the big,
Yes,
for us to
Yes.
do what we need to do going forward, I think making sure we're adequately staffed.
Yes.
Is the key one, and go from there.
Yeah,
That's definitely.
once we have the personnel, then, once we know we're covered that way, then yes, then the other things will come along in time. But you're right, the personnel's the huge thing, of course.
And in that regard, I think you're to be commended because the people you hired that I've interacted with all been top notch.
Oh, thanks, I'm glad. I want people, I've told the officers, and Dan has expressed it to them as well, and so has Kevin. We're there to make people's lives easier, not harder. Communicate, customer service, so it's, but we'll just keep plugging along, but I'm happy, very happy with how it's gone and the support I've received from everybody in this room and the whole administrative staff and all the employees. It's been great.
watching from the outside, I think you're doing a great job. But you made the comment that you're gonna walk before you run. I'd like to be there that day because 30 years ago, I couldn't get your lieutenant to run in the academy, so I'd like to see that.
Anybody, was there any other questions or comments or any concerns? Anybody think we should, honestly, let us know if there's something we should do differently, if there's something you'd like to see, with the police department, whatever you need, just let us know.
Again, kudos to the chief. There's so much to this. It's crazy how much I've learned in the past year since you've been here. It's going really, really well. So I'm very thankful for the chief and the lieutenant and the entire staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, you made it through all 9 topics. Where we're headed from here is just a brief recap. We talked about yesterday morning some of the common themes that we heard. And again, the exercise we're going to do here in just a moment, I'd like you to keep that in mind. That we had safety being an underlying theme across all of our action items. That first and foremost, we want to save the environment here at the airport. Our customer experience, again, across all 9 categories. Every place it was about improving customer experience. Training, we talked about different, at least in 6 different areas. The chief just mentioned some too, so I guess that's a common question as we look at the goal setting. Is there do we continue, do we develop that where we talked about staff and training, or do some of these trainings filter into the individual topic areas? For example, the chief just talked about de-escalation training and customer training. Do those come out of a law enforcement, if we keep a law enforcement specific goal into that HR or personnel goal that we talked about. Staffing, we noted 5+ staff. I think we talked about 2 more today. So the chiefs, we'll see that in just a minute. We just talked about HR yesterday. We just talked about environmental. So again, that counts going. Mark, I think we have to go find someone else.
So is that 5 + 2?
Yes, because that was before we walked into the room this morning. And then our IT solutions, Frank's going to find himself busy, I think. Across that, we need to talk about 8 different references to some sort of IT solution that we need. Predominantly, most of them being software-based, but we know that software brings IT headaches.
Well, there was one added today to the chief's core program.
That we've already got in here.
That's
Yep,
already in there?
That's already in
Okay.
there, yep. So here's where we were before we walked in yesterday. So we had the one you hired to support general counsel and accounting. That did not take into account potentially outsourcing some of our HR. So yesterday we talked about HR, possibly needing its own position or that third-party consultant. So that one is not reflected here. We had our new hire to help with planning and zoning. In addition to that, we talked about potentially environmental. So maybe that person could double dip and add environmental into that. So 3 hats. We talked about our new hires, one of which we just took care of. I think Chief said started this morning. Was our K-9 unit that got discussed. And then again, we talked about just multiple hires needed for ops and maintenance. And again, those focusing on specific skill sets. So a lot of moving parts with additional staff. Key thing that came out, and I don't think we talked too much about it yesterday, but in my conversations with Heather, and Mark, correct me if I get this wrong, basically you're sitting in the 43 to 47, depending upon the seasonals. As soon as you hit that 50-person mark, you've got a lot more requirements in terms of FMLA requirements. That payroll continues to get more complicated, benefits, et cetera. So that again factors into that HR side of the house of needing more to support finance group. Did I capture that right?
You got it.
Okay. So where we're headed next, we're going to take a quick break. And when you come back, what we're going to ask of each of you is all of the boards that we've looked at that have all of these topics, they're going to be spread somewhere here because I'm not sure how we're going to get all of you to move around. But you're going to get 24 dots. You're going to get a sheet with dots on them. And what I'm going to ask you to do is I would like you to prioritize. You only get 24 votes, unless you want to horse trade with somebody for their votes. We'd like you to put them across the 9 topic areas. And what we're looking for is to be able to see where do we see each of you prioritizing your interests of what you heard over the past 2 days. So you peel it back, there's a little dot, and so you can stick it on whatever you want. The colors don't mean anything, so there's not a priority of the colors. You just get 24 dots. So we're looking for you to put them across all the 9 topic areas so that we can then, we'll reconvene and kind of talk about where we see the areas of emphasis. One of my concerns for you is, if we count every single one of these items, plus the new ones we added today, we had over 100 action items that were discussed. Again, we're looking to say, so are some of these action items, are they more appropriate to be measurements? For example, just standing up the law enforcement, there's elements in there that the title might be appropriate staffing for 24-hour coverage, and 3 or 4 of those line items move over to the action, or excuse me, the measurement column, if you will. So those are the types of things that we're looking at. So think about that. Again, think about who's responsible for it, and also we're looking at then how would that prioritize? Do we really want to have somewhere in the 9 range of goals as they manifested themselves today, or do we like getting closer back to that 4 number or whatever in between? So that will help guide it based upon where you put your dots. So,
Real quick, Steph.
Yeah.
One of the things that Steph and I talked about real briefly yesterday is when it comes to the capital side in particular, that may be worth a separate discussion in and of itself. And maybe from a strategic standpoint, identifying a high level goals for maintaining and building out infrastructure, but then maybe having almost a separate conversation for prioritization of CIP things. So maybe save a few dots that way, just given that that's kind of a whole separate animal in and of itself in some ways, as I see it. So.
And Dan wants more dots, so he's willing to eat you in the batting cage.
Challenge accepted.
You have to hit left-handed.
I will.
All right, so I have about 10 o'clock. How about we take a 15-minute break, 10:15, we'll have the boards up. And basically, you're just gonna work your way around the room and till your dots are used up.
Paul, put all yours on law enforcement, please.
That sounds like the game.
Wait a second. The lobbying now starts. Wait a second. The lobbying is already started.
I'm gonna stand up there with a taser.
Here you go, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, we tried to have one of the vehicles parked up there all the time.
They should be barricaded.
I know, I
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
There's one vote.
Yeah.
There's one vote.
We'll talk about carbon footprint.
Yeah. We can get an electric one. Let's get an electric one.
It's got 40-mile range.
Yeah.
For the distance it needs to travel, it's probably just fine.
Yeah.
Imagine how quick it would be.
As long as you don't ever deploy it for the,
Yeah.
I did not.
Okay, so if I'm up there.
I forgot to tell Dan, I forgot to add a vehicle in.
Okay, what about, they didn't give me your.
Besides the tactical vehicle?
I only got tactical vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Terrazzo flooring tactical vehicle.
Hey.
Looks like we've got standing up our ACI, and the bulk of it being obviously step 1, which I think is great. I think as we discussed as we were talking about this could very easily be combined into a single action item, the standing up program, and our measurements could be step 1, step 2, because we could put those in sequential years as we move forward with it. And then our continued conversion and transition to more sustainable practices. So that one, that can be either standalone in our stewardship, but with it being a tied to all of our construction-related aspects as well. So it's got, overlap that would apply. We've got a couple for more recycling efforts, so we can build that in. Our environmental staff focus, so again, I think we can tie that back into possibly our new hire within engineering, and the reporting of our environmental activities. I think that's a really important one that can come back and get tied into both this as well as be a metric for our overall program. So good voting on that one. All right, looks like Mr. Klein, looks like you got some work putting together some documentation for a board onboarding package. A great grouping of.
I think it's about slackers.
Dan would love to help you.
I can help you.
Thanks, Dan.
So good combination of elements here, looking at some additional board training and annual report. So I think that speaks volumes for a good new. And I'd say this. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of where we're getting the amount of numbers or votes. Also is validating that this is probably a standalone goal that we want to look at. So again, building our number of goals.
So what's the magic number? I'm looking at how many dots some gets. If it gets more than 1, it's good. If it gets more than 4 or 10, I'm not being facetious, but does it need more than 5 to make it a goal or no?
I think it's not so much even a goal. I think it's a matter of here predominance of priority. So you're going to get to decide that. What Kevin and I were just discussing is I'm going to come away today and summarize all this for you based upon what we've heard, kind of reorganize some of the things where we talked about some things moving. Are they an action item compared to a measurement? So I'm going to put some organization to all of that and bring that back to you for kind of the next pass, if you will, to then validate it from there. So we're not going to walk away from today with this is the absolute. You're going to get another pass. Good question. And the short answer is there's not a magic number.
Okay.
It's more of a, say, a gut feel for all of us as we're collectively working through it.
Okay.
Stephanie, you can probably take a look at this and see some trends,
Absolutely.
And some of them were duplicates, like I
Right.
found some of them.
Right,
The
but this is a
HR
great one.
Like the HR side, I saw 3 or 4 spots, and they all had dots. So
Right.
clearly, that's a
Sure.
direction we need to move.
Absolutely. It's like this one. We had the existing goal on here to show that we were carrying it forward, and, the new one was pretty similar, a little different wording. Obviously, we've got a lot of dots, so I would look at this collectively as that's where we've got to make it. So this is our air service task, so we've got plenty of interest in everything. Find it interesting, our attract new, again, here was the existing. When we combine it, we've got a pretty good representation that we also want additional carriers. But I think to Jeff's discussion yesterday, is that carriers or is that capacity or is it both? I think as a flying public, I may not. I guess it depends which bucket you fall in. I travel a lot professionally, so for me, it's about capacity in terms of frequency of flights. I hate flying home on the only last flight of the night. That's the 11 o'clock. I like extra service where I could get there multiple times throughout the day. So I'm probably going to fly more towards the capacity side of the house compared to the number of destinations. But that's going to vary. So that's, again, more conversation that will be had on that. Lots continuing to work with them in terms of scheduling equipment. I think that speaks, certainly to the air service side, but it also really ties into our infrastructure conversation of being able to stand up more common use that would make that more flexible for us to use. So again, some crossover where we're going to see how it's going back and forth. All right, so our customer experience. No surprise to me that there's lots of interest on this one. You guys, I will say that was one of the themes, again, I said it yesterday, that came through with the conversations I had with everybody, that led the conversation time and time again. So again, we got good concentration of continuing community engagement, so keeping that outreach. I don't know, I think something like last night spoke volumes to that, right? There there was evidence of that. Got just a few in terms of the style guide. That doesn't surprise me a little bit because that's something that is branding more of an internal. So I would argue that probably is something that comes over to be a measure as we're doing our community engagement. It's not an action, but a measurement of can we stand that up. Lots of votes here for providing customer service training. We heard that time and time again. And again, over both airport, TDC staff, as well as everybody else that's part of the experience. So good selection there. So I think we've got that goal moving forward as well. All right, safety and compliance.
There's airport programs.
Our new, again, we had combined, and Leanne was kind enough to explain that he sent me an email and I missed the nuance in it. That we weren't talking about ACM separately, but you guys have stuck with it, that we want to keep our Part 139 safety and security. We've got our TSA compliance. We maybe again that builds into solid TSA compliance, and then what are our additional metrics. So I think a lot of that badging conversation with Laura yesterday, people over that as far as total stand some of those things up. Let's see. A few interests in terms of our TSA pre-check. I assume some of that's got to do with that's a new service that we're standing up, so we kind of need to see how that plays out. As well as scheduling software. I guess that's a question for the group, maybe Frank, Kevin, Dan, Mark. There's IT solutions across all of these. Do they stay in these individual areas, or are there maybe does it fall under the optimization financial side of the house? Is there a line item that is, investigate and stand up appropriate software solutions or IT solutions, and the measurements could be the 8 different ones that we talked about. So something to think about as we massage these as we go through. I'm gonna not tell Chris that he only got one vote on meeting my OSHA safety standards. I don't want to make him cry.
Well, but that's a given thing every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
It's not really a
Exactly.
goal, it's
It's
something
not
we
a-
don't do it.
That's something.
So I mean, that again could be one of our reporting items.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been to 0 accidents then.
Exactly. All right. Chief, looks like you got lots of support here.
They're all mine.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Let's go.
24 numbers on.
Let's go.
Whose could those be? Yeah.
He took half of my stickers.
What's that bear cat rated?
SWAT vehicle?
Yeah. I didn't do that, Kevin. That wasn't me.
Nice in the parade, right?
Yeah.
I
Did
think
you
that's
put the word
false,
Bearcat?
right? Oh, wait a second, no, that's the board member in the back here.
They don't fly very well.
The quiet one in the back.
They sure will. So we've got perfect TSA inspection. I think that again speaks volume. This one is a question for me in terms of should that one be a safety and compliance compared to the law enforcement, or does it stay in both?
It's double down or triple
Yeah.
down.
And absolutely.
That's why I was getting at the
Yep.
separation,
Agreed.
safety, security,
Yep.
and then self-sufficient on the financial.
There you go.
Okay.
See, to me, that's more of a goal rather than just annual TSA inspection. A perfect TSA
Sure.
inspection is like, that's the standard.
Right. Yep. And again, it's annual, so report out, is it plus or minus, yes or no? I mean, it's just, so again, influencing, it would be argued, is that simply reporting then? Either you got it or not. I would argue it's definitely influencing though, because you have the ability to influence, do you get that perfect one or not? All right. A little bit of interest here of our revised standards. I think some of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I mean, that's kind of happening as we speak. So is that really a long-term strategic goal? Our de-escalation training, hiring our additional police officers, again, some of those are happening as we speak. So as we look forward, I guess, Kevin, we didn't talk about this. Are we technically tightening this like 27 through
27, 28, 29.
Okay. So I guess that would be the other thing we can talk about is if any of these are going to be accomplished by the end of the fiscal year and calendar year, we probably don't need to carry it forward. So lots of good support here for implementing our records management system. And also canine program, looks like you got support. We're gonna have to, except for figuring out how you can cuddle it too and not get turned out.
Yeah.
All right.
Emotional support.
6 does not equal 6 dogs.
Come on.
I tell you, one of the times that I traveled a lot through airports, and one of the most, I would say, uncomfortable situations I've ever been was I was in Washington DC at Reagan National, looking to fly out, and we're all standing in line waiting for, to go through TSA, and the TSA line had stopped, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, they were setting up for the canine unit to come through and do inspection. So first of all, we stood there for over 20 minutes while they got the line all, and we're like, why can't we go through the 20 minutes while you set this up? Well, we couldn't. We weren't gonna ask questions because I didn't want to get flagged. So we're waiting, they got it all set up, and then we had to walk through slowly so he could walk. I've never been more thoughts about, did I wipe my hands from that burger on my pocket? What did I have? I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't think I'm a milk bone. And there was a guy that threw behind us as I was going through the screening, get pulled aside, and I thought, I'm glad I wasn't standing next to him. So, all right, we're on the financial position. So, little smattering of everything, and again, I think that has to do with the fact that we've got a lot on here. Major votes here for keeping our operating cash on hand. Again, I would combine these because we had that both with the acknowledgement that probably setting a specific number is, we could do that, but we know it's going to be higher than where we have in the past because of everything going on with the terminal. So we got quite a few down here in our new for investigating terminal advertising options. A few more here on developing cost centers. So I'm assuming that's some staff telling us, yeah, it'd be great if we could get our arms around that better. Let's see, where we got another major one. 3 here along the debt service coverage. So I think we've got some good ones here. I think, again, some of these are much better in terms of measurements than they are action items. So I think we'll do some revamping of that. Not that screen. All right, so now we're on to our training and our staff. So lots of good votes for our customer service training, again, crossover. Quite a few here for new focus on hiring key staff with key skill sets. So definitely heard that loud and clear. Again, good number for hiring employees to meet necessary staffing levels. So, maybe this is a combination. Get a 2 for out of it. For job classifications, I'm not going to tell Chris that he got no votes on these. Somebody just keep that to yourself if you don't want to.
It's double, tripled up there with the jobs, I think. Yeah.
I think so. I think all of these could very easily come into measurements that as we stand that up, it's not necessarily an action item. Agreed. Lots of votes here for our succession planning, so I think that's something definitely that needs to be looked at. And our one that didn't come out in the conversation, that came out pre-conversation, is our HR position to support. So I think, Mark, as you're looking more, that's looks like to be something either outsourced or internal. So good conversation. All right, last one. All right, looks like Bob, you're going to be.
See what happens? You just stay away.
I just sat around told him I thought.
You got nothing better to do. All right.
When I'm looking at
Goodness,
Where's
for continuing the journal expansion.
got no votes, so what do we do with that?
It's Terminal C, so.
All right, so lots of continuing our terminal expansion, some additional, quite a few here discussing that we need to reinvestigate more restrooms, that being a pinch point. Quite a few, as it looks like, our ticket counters and our bag systems. So I think that thing was a high priority for Chris in that discussion. That one also ties into our staffing side of the house. That, again, skill sets that we need to actually service those types of. Dan Hart, you handling it today. Is a lot of that outsourced to get somebody to come in to fix them, or?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Well, we try and take care of as much as we can in-house, but we have we're subcontracting right now, so.
Okay, all right. We've got also 4 towards expanding the economy parking lot, so that's again that trigger point of at what point do we start looking at it. again, because we got planning, environmental design before we can actually get to construction and parking in it. Our terminal access along South Airport Road, you know, that could be, depending on the timing of a master plan update, you know, you could potentially wrap that into that as well. Got our snow removal equipment building, so I appreciate that. That'll make Chris happy. That we acknowledge that that is a pinch point as we speak to look at. Airfield lighting and signage replacement. You know, I think Bill's talked about that. You know, that again is something that we can play into some of that efficiency or cost of savings with upgrading equipment as well. And let's see, we got 3 each in our water line improvements, and then our survey for the bathroom, which I'm going to add those into our capacity issue as well. A lot of good conversations. Again, a few of these I think would actually be better spent as reporting compared to action items. So. You guys got through a lot. I guess as you see any of these, was there anything out of any of them that surprised you? Something you didn't see with a greater emphasis than you thought, maybe?
That's good.
I think what I found interesting is some of the additional topics that came out of my conversation. Some of the adders that we didn't have, like you said, initially for the first round. We made some shifts with some of those things, which I think are important, because I think they are some key items that we initially thought of, so for consideration.
I was really happy to see support for ongoing board training, board development. I think, you know, as board members, you know, since I've been here, I've seen almost a complete change in the board, and all our board members maybe have worked on a board. And so I was really happy to see, like, so we can be better with the team as overseeing everything. Additional board training for us too, you know, and be better servants and be better board members. So I was really happy to see that, you know, encourage board training, board development, helps us understand our role with regard to the NRAA. So.
How about maybe?
I'm on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and I don't ever go to the airport in the summertime, never been there in June, July, or August. And not my time to travel, right? Except for a board meeting. And I was really surprised at the bathroom thing. I mean, of all the meetings we had, we never talk about adding more bathrooms, but it does go to my idea of the portable bathroom, doesn't it? But, you know, I'm just surprised that we don't have so many more, and that it's just now coming up.
Dan?
Probably normal.
Who voted for you? You got one blue sticker on you.
Daryl did. We have a new business opportunity. Yeah, but amazing is my point. Yeah.
Something you, well, I mean, then traveling through, you've not experienced that? So
Yeah, I've
it's not
never,
your
you know,
radar.
in January, February, March, and April, it's never busy in the bathroom any times, right? You know, it's just not a problem, except for June, July, and August.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not pertaining to this so much, but early yesterday, we talked about our master plan was outdated. And shouldn't that be something that we address soon? I mean,
Yeah.
it was
So it's on there. It's, so every 20 years is the typical schedule for the FAA to address it. Now, it's not addressed and then put on the shelf for 20 years. It's updated through every project, every airport layout plan, everything. So in the 20 years, I suspect it's probably been updated like 18 times.
Certainly the airport layout plan has, as we progress through the projects that were identified in the master plan.
Yeah. So those things are there, so it's being updated, but it's that time now, because the majority of the projects in the master plan have been accomplished, including the terminal position, so that's beginning now. So it is time to bring that on, to do that, so.
And what is that process typically? Is that internally done or?
No, we'll go through consultant selection for it, and yeah, it'll be very similar to our other planning type hiring consultants projects.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge you would run into it, and Stephanie can talk to it well, is that, you know, it's cyclical from the standpoint of, or I guess maybe not even cyclical. It has peaks and valleys. You know, you do a set of forecasting as a part of it as an example, and you're going to plan to a certain level, but exactly as we've seen happen with your different, air service rise and fall, depending on what's happening, it can change things, and so you have to build in that flexibility if you can into that plan. You've done a lot since your last master plan that has evolved from it, and some of it is deviated from it because of that level of service that you've been able to attract that can make it challenging. You can dovetail some of it into, some of the environmental stuff that Carrie was talking about. Like I said, if you go down that road, you're going to be required to do the waste management plan element. Timing on that you might want to consider, because that would facilitate some of that environmental aspects of it. So there's opportunities for it. The challenge being, Sean alluded to it yesterday, some of the elements that you look at, where FA is in terms of design standards these days, could shine light on different aspects of the facility that we'd have to look at in terms of where that compared to existing standards compared to where they were when they were constructed. So there's a lot to potentially unpack as a part of that planning process. Well, we had 3 board members. Let's go through the Rick. Any thoughts on it from the board member perspective? Okay. Where you at?
But I just think it's very interesting. I was kind of surprised about the HR position. I mean, it seems very obvious once now that it's been said, but it wasn't in there initially, so that, just like that, like the same thing with the bathrooms. But I was a little confused about the bathrooms because all the dots were on the right side, so I thought they were negative.
Less backwards.
Yeah.
Daryl, how about you?
My thoughts, I got a little higher at this point. I really appreciated the being able to see kind of behind the curtain at the airport. I'm not an airport professional. I'm not an administrator at the airport. I'm not on that team, but I am part of Team TVC, and these type of things really help me understand the inner workings and the challenges that you guys face. And as an aside, I want to note that all of the things on this board, I was thinking about this last night, on these boards on the wall, they're all tweaks of things that are going really well. So we're not, the problem we're dealing with is the growth, which is, they're good problems to have, and this organization has reacted very well, and now we're trying to tweak and be better, which is the culture that I'm proud to be a part of. But I want to thank everyone for including us and for taking the time. I know this is a lot of cost and time of everybody. I think it's been very helpful, and it's going to help all of us understand the problems. As for the things on there, I think we've done a pretty good job of indicating where we need to focus, and I think it's pretty similar amongst, I don't think there's any big outliers. I think that the next effort with these boards would be to then kind of condense them into smaller, we don't need 27 action items or 47, whatever it is, but we can focus these down into areas. And I think that the team is well suited to get through them and knock them off. So I have high confidence that these will get done. It's not like some organizations you're part of, you do something like this and those things get stuck on the shelf and they're ignored. I don't have any belief that that's how this is going to happen. I think we're going to get at them.
Appreciate those comments. Rob, I think you're the last board member.
What was the question?
Any comments on what you heard today? Things you didn't see that you thought you would? Or?
Yeah, the biggest thing I saw, and this is kind of a overused buzzword, we didn't see anything about AI and emerging technologies. We've got a really good team, and we're really focused in on, that team and optimizing in traditional senses, but we haven't looked outside the box.
That's interesting.
As my computer's failing right now, yes, I understand that.
All right, how about, let's go through around with the staff. Bob? you wanna kick us off?
No, I think we've covered it fairly well. Like I said, the CIP, I think, is maybe a little bit of a standalone item, in my opinion. But in terms of the bathroom things, I think it'll be really interesting for us to maybe do an assessment after Concourse B comes online. I think what we talked about, right now, we just don't have any, room to really grow that. And once we more essentially bringing on 125%, 150% bathroom capacity with Concourse B. I think that we should give it a little bit of time and start doing some assessments from there. But it's absolutely the case that we experience a lot of peak hour passenger constraints with our current bathrooms, and I don't know if there's. Can certainly think about different solutions, but
The
yeah.
terminal itself, the entire terminal.
Yeah.
I mean, from the start to the finish, with 3 times the amount of people moving through it, and bathrooms is just one part of it.
Like I said, it's a pinch point, it's a symptom of.
Yeah,
But I
growth, and
I do appreciate what was noted there in terms of just the planning ahead for Concourse C, because Stephanie and I have had a couple of conversations about that already. So whether it's actually for parking or the terminal, because it's all related, what are our trigger points? Just given, like Ward said, it just doesn't happen, right? We've got all these processes we've got to get through. So working through some of those planning exercises to get into environmental, to get into design and construction, all good things.
Okay, great. Mark?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that's telling the most is when you look at our last strategic planning matrix versus all of these, and how expansive the current one that we just worked through is. And I think it's indicative of a couple of things, obviously our growth. As we grow and get bigger, our folks are all focused on what are some more things we need to do to continue on the proper trajectory, to continue the success that we've had, which I think is awesome. I think the other piece is that we've added some groups. We've added the LEO group. We've added air service development. So we've got some more key folks on staff to help focus on those particular pieces. Where on the prior one, they're a little more general. They were on our radar, but we've got some more folks to help us focus on those to improve those areas as well. And at the end of the day, that's going to continue to make us more successful. And even from that, when we do our next strategic planning, I see a board separate for HR, based upon the conversation that we've had in the last day or so. I and Heather know that was probably going to be a need, and we were going to try to figure out a way to do it as best as we can. But obviously, it's really telling and very appreciative from the feedback in that regard, knowing that other folks that are in this room today, with your levels of expertise and experience, see that that's going to be a definitive need. So I just love the fact that all of our ideas have come together to kind of continue us down that path.
Karen?
Yeah, to echo all of what Mark was saying is I think that, we've, from before, but 2011, starting in 2011, we really started to grow as an airport. We were bigger, and more passengers, more growth. And now we're like at this point where we've been able to do it like as a small airport for a long time, but I think we're now recognizing that we need to take that next step, in many areas, like the hiring of new staff, infrastructure, etc. We need to take the next step from small town airport kind of operation to, we're the 3rd largest airport in the state. And I appreciate the board's recognition of that.
Mr. Ryan?
So, first of all, I think I'd start out with, I want to say I'm very proud of the exercise. I'm very proud of everybody that participated. And the reason I say that is because it shows the type of organization and the people that are here, their willingness to give the input, the ability to do it with just open regard to think about all the purpose and the procedures and the processes that we talk about that really do not reflect themselves, but reflect the organization. And it's the same point of why we did the jerseys and everything else is the name on the front is more important than the name on the back. And I think that that is so true and evident in everything that was brought out. Your conversations with each individual to dig in to see what the organization is about. But it was always interesting when I look at it is we need this to make the organization better. We need this to make the organization better. And I really thought that was what was very cool about what was on the board. There wasn't, I didn't see anything that was self-serving. I didn't see anything that was, it was all opportunities to grow the organization and continue the growth of the organization. I think that was what was, highlighted to me through all the different objectives. It's yes, we're growing, but how do we continue? How do we continue the positivity for our community, impact our community? And I think that's the message, the key message I see in all of the strategic planning. What is strategic about each of these items is therefore a positive growth scenario internally and externally in the organization. I do agree with Rob a little bit. Maybe what was missing was some technology. I really thought, especially, and maybe because Chris isn't here, we didn't hear it, that we'd hear more about autonomous vehicles. Like autonomous vehicles to mow the clear zones, to mow some of the airfields. Autonomous vehicles that will eventually be part of snow removal. Autonomous vehicles that will take place of whatever Bearcat you'll need. But
He doesn't want, he wants to drive that one.
Kevin, what I'm understanding is you need two now. There's an autonomous one and one for the drive.
There you go. But, there is some technology solutions that are out there that, that we deal with every day, whether it's gate management, anything along those lines. So I really enjoyed, because that's one thing that we talk about as a team every Monday is our processes and procedures, and really making those items, become relevant every day. So I really saw that evident in what was suggested. So very proud of all of that. And I think, one of the things that the airport industry does, or the aviation industry as a whole does, is it's checklists. And when you see strategic plans, you see master plans, and you see business plans. Everybody wants to develop a checklist and check it off. And it's done, it's completed, it's that. And that is very traditional. And I think some of that is here, but I think a lot of it gets back to the planning process, the procedures and everything that's up here. That it's not just a check off, but it's a developmental impact to the organization. And I think that's very important. And maybe a little morbid. Checklists are great, but everybody knows what checklists are in aviation. Every checklist item is on a checklist due to an accident or an incident or something to prevent something from happening in the future. So that's, when we talk about the safety, law enforcement, and everything else, every one of those items are there because we've learned. Environmental compliance, you can almost say the same thing. Every item that's there on environmental compliance is there because we've learned from something else. So I think the overall plan and putting it together and creating a strategic plan and bringing that forward, we could bring thousands of topics, but we got a great place in subject areas to refine it. We got a great ability to take some of the items that are truly action items and measurement items and put them together. So I think it's a great place to start. My philosophy has always been is the strategic plan, business plan is completed first before any master plan is put together. And so I think this is a great step to our master planning process for the airport. So.
And I'm gonna make Dan follow that up.
Yeah, who gets to follow that, Chief?
Wait a second. All I can say is there's a big deal.
Yeah.
No, I like the exercise. I'd agree. We have to, with Carrie, that we are growing and getting bigger in the small town. With this, it comes growing pains with restrooms or space or whatever else. But for me, this exercise, and for everybody in the room, I love everybody's participation. It gets me thinking about the overall picture, everything. Love hearing from the chief. I love hearing from Chris, Lori, everybody, environmental. I try to think of Mark a lot during this, believe it or not, financial, because it all has to work. It all has to work together. But really big picture items and the team and growing the team. And for me, the exercise is to, we see these action items and these things that pop, and they're recurring. Some of them are recurring. But for me, it's trying to think differently, staying ahead of the curve. Like, what can we do to stay ahead of it? And proactive. So that's it. I'll end.
This is my first experience with strategic planning, and I feel really energized by it. I think I had, right when I joined this team, I had a deep sense that everybody here, including the board, had an appreciation for air service and that it was important. But actually visually seeing it like this, it's energizing, it's exciting. And I think just seeing the big picture, we get together every Monday and we chat about a lot of these items, which is incredibly helpful. But sitting down and kind of taking a deeper dive, it's been exciting. And just the marketing part too. We didn't specifically touch on a lot of the marketing points and how important it is to, once we get those planes, to make sure they're full. But I think it was without being said, because we talked about the community engagement and customer service and all of that, and how everything's so intertwined. And so it was an awesome experience.
Right?
Yeah, this is my first time as well. So for the past year, I've been mostly involved with IT from a technical perspective, boots on the ground, I guess you could say. So hearing the initiatives and the goals, and understanding how IT plays a role in that is very beneficial, I think. And, happy to be a part of Team TVC, and looking forward to the new tools that we'll be putting in place to make people's jobs easier and safer. And, good meetings.
What I'd like to add, I didn't speak earlier, is the last day and a half here, it's been great watching everybody, the talent in this room. But what I really enjoyed was last night at the ball game. I mean, there's a whole room here full of talent. You make the plan, but it was the staff that I saw at the ball game last night, how they were interacting, smiling, and they're the ones that make your plan go, and they're the ones that deserve a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Chris should go next, shouldn't he?
I was just gonna give him the list and say, here's the board's Chris McGinnis.
I said if he would have delayed 20 more minutes, right on time for lunch.
No, I've enjoyed it. It's a great experience. I just am amazed at how it all, this airport and the whole staff and employees all work together. All, you know, work for governments, counties, cities. I've never worked at a place where things have been so close. Everybody's working together and sharing ideas, and of course that starts at the top with Kevin and Dan, and it just, everybody works together. There's no animosity. I mean, people have a little disagreement, but you work it out, and they talk about things, and looking at this plan on how everything comes together, it's and it is a huge organization, it really is. There's a lot to it, and safety and security, yeah, it's a top priority, but there's other things that have to happen. You know, I mean, you've got to have the air carriers, you've got to have the marketing, you got to have the financial savvy, you've got, all these things have to work together to make it happen. So I'm just amazed at how it does all work together, and I think this is a great way of, you know, putting it all together with everybody's input like this.
To that point, just because I'm kind of a visual kind of person, I literally printed all of these boards on a singular large sheet, and I started drawing arrows to connect. Well, that one, you know, it fits their best, but it really affects this. And this one's pretty good, but it could be tied, you know, here. By the time I was done, I basically had an ink spot. To your point, that, you know, any one of these things has multiple spots where it's appropriate and applicable. So I do think that is a challenge as well as a benefit that it really is all connected. So, Chris?
Welcome. What'd you like about the strategic plan?
Right to the airport was really quiet.
Yeah, you didn't get any dots on any of your boards or suggestions. I'm sorry. Sorry.
You want to vote now?
I'm sure that it went really well. I'm sure there was a lot of very good things discussed, and I'm sorry that I made it so late. I'm sad about it, you know. But start inspection tomorrow.
There you go.
And
Just get ready for
not gonna
something.
sleep until tomorrow night.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
How about everything for the meat hunting?
Well, you know what I always say about TBC, and board, don't take this the wrong way, but you take this staff at TBC, you can put them in any large hub airport with what they have now, and they can run a large hub airport. We've traveled quite a bit, and I think this staff is so efficient and so cohesive that to run this, they can run anything. And this community is so lucky to have this staff.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that.
John?
No, I just say that it's exciting to work at an airport that's got this much going for it. That's not always the case in what we do. So I know it's the efforts of everybody in this room as well as at the airport and the community at large. So definitely appreciate that. And looking forward to helping you guys get to the next level, whatever we decide that it is.
Well, I just want to say I'm really thankful for being part of the TBC extended staff team for the past 16 years in a planning role. It's amazing people, and I respect all of them very much. Regarding the strategic planning is really fun for me. This is a really fun exercise to do with you all because you are such great participants. So I really look forward to consolidating all the information, getting a plan in place, and then watching it come to fruition over the years.
Well, I don't know how you'll feel about it, but,
Hold on.
yeah?
Mr. Moon.
Several things. The first thing, you need to do some noise forecasts. It should be a stochastic model with variables for fleet composition, variables for passenger counts, and there are probably a couple of other things, but you need to run it out at least 20 years. The concern that I have is that I don't know what your name is. Jeff. Jeff's presentation yesterday, in terms of some of the growth forecasts, you might kill the goose. And if you kill the goose, that's a really bad thing. And so you need to look at noise going way out. It can't be deterministic, it has to be stochastic. That is the biggest thing, and was completely ignored and not discussed here. Now, when I talk about stochastic, 3/4 of the people in this room don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Kevin, Bob, and all of the meat and hunt people should know what I just said. Probably not able to do it, but should know what I'm talking about from a vocabulary standpoint. The second thing I think you need to look at governance and internal controls more. And I base that statement off of the FOIAs that I've done. Those are the only two things I have.
Thank you.
So, I already mentioned it briefly. We're going to summarize the materials that we've talked about today. We're going to provide it back to Kevin for distribution, conversation, refinement, if you will, and then moving forward to adoption. I think the discussion here is, with it, if it can be accomplished or if it's in progress, end of the calendar year, we're probably going to move that to a completed area, and then be able to bring that forward then for implementation. This went, you guys are way more efficient than I had planned on. We expected to break for lunch and have a conversation that we just had after lunch leading into the board meeting. So unless Kevin has more, I don't have anything else that I'm requiring of you as a part of the strategic planning exercise. We've got more to discuss, happy to entertain it, but we can also adjourn for lunch and let you get on with your day. So I'll put that to Paul and Kevin for you guys to make that decision.
So what will happen is when the summary comes back to us, we'll put it in a format. We did the last one, we did a table. We had a table also for it. We'll come up with a format of some kind, and then we'll present it at our August board meeting. And at that August board meeting, I don't know that it's going to be adopted, but we'll present it at the August board meeting. We'll refine, have discussion, and then if we have to come back, we'll come back in September. And at that point, hopefully we'll have it all wrapped up for it to be adopted by the board and then distributed amongst the staff. But it'll be in a format that we like what I call it a dashboard format, because what we see is when you have a book of a strategic plan or a master plan together, everybody takes that book and put it on the shelf. But when you have a dashboard, you put it on your bulletin board, and you get back and you look at it, how am I living, breathing, walking that plan? So we'll work on that, and that's kind of what our targeted timeline is. Back in August, finalize the document, get it adopted by September, start the implementation. As for periodic review, we always have done it twice a year. At usually our January board meeting and our July board meeting. Let's talk about that. But that will be something in August we want to discuss, is how often do we want to review it? How often do we want to bring it to the table? We can do it quarterly. We can keep it on our schedule. So that's one of the things that I think is to be determined, but it's something we've thought about now. We do take it.
No, not really. I really, as Kevin mentioned, I know putting it on the one-page sheet is just so much easier. Our organization did one, and it was numerous pages, and we put on ours on a spreadsheet. We can look at it. However, for when it's on one sheet, you can can get a big snapshot of how you're doing. It's just a lot less imposing. And I think we're more prone as a board to take a look at it. If it's, we don't have to rifle through 20 pages, but we say, hey, how are we doing? And keep the staff accountable and the board accountable for implementation of the items. So, yeah, I mean, we can do all these, but if we're not keeping track of it, we're not holding ourselves accountable, it's gonna sit there.
Yep.
So, but really, again, just really appreciate everyone taking a couple of days, and I think that's why the organization is so successful. You take the time to do it, to review how we're doing, and where we want to go moving forward, so.
And I'd just like to thank all of you, the staff that I talked to, appreciate you guys, the candor that you shared with me, the passion that you shared with me. As Bill said, Team TBC is a lot of fun to work with. It's incredible to me, the care, passion that you bring, and technical expertise that you offer in your positions that came through loud and clear in the conversations I had with you. So I appreciate it. This is a fun exercise for me to make for you. So hope you guys will take what comes out of it and go forward.
Is there any, so getting back to the formal part of our agenda, is there any further comments, questions, comments on our strategic plan?
Oh, not on that. I was gonna just say that at 1 o'clock, the new officer will be sworn in, if you can all be here. He's at work until 2, the lieutenant's gonna bring him out. We're gonna swear the new officer in.
At the meeting at 3, is it?
No, but he's gotta come at 1 o'clock, if everybody's here to do that. I didn't know if everybody was leaving or coming back, or, but he's gonna be here to do that at 1 o'clock if we can do that.
Okay. Anything else on strategic plan? If not, is there any general comment? Any further board member comments?
Spend our extra time talking about Bozeman.
Do that. Always like to talk about those. Any other member comments? If not, our meeting is adjourned. And then what are we gonna do for the staff, Kevin?
So we have lunch next. We have to stay at 3 o'clock. Okay, so let's have lunch.
Practice?
Let me see, I'll see if I can. For you?
Can we play the board against the staff in a game of get out onto the field?
Yeah, now we're
going.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know the place.
What did you say about pole busting last night? I don't know what it was.
I think we need a liability waiver for that.
Is mine still on file?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cover it.
If we do want to go outside to High Street, I'll check with Jacqueline, but she did mention that that was open to us.
Okay.
If we want to wander outside and it's a nice day, I'll go double check with her, but.
But then lunch and then our meeting is here at 3.
At 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Is someone bringing our tablets?
Yeah, Ron will be bringing all that stuff out. I don't know if he's bringing tablets or paper.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna do just paper, but he'll have pens.
He'll have your pen.
Not yours, but everybody else.
Hearts, H-A-R-T.
Pages, for Lancet, it's quarterly meeting, I think we'll be done.
We're gonna.
I think everybody would be, I think we're gonna go fast.
I think so too, but
After being 2 days, I think we.
Well, beware.
I just don't want you guys to think, like, 4:45.
He might do over at Costco, or Woodside North, play, maybe I'm putting
It's all remarkable.
It's all right.